At the start of the anime, 4 people are going back to their city after defeating the Demon King. Frieren is reading a book and Himmel calls her. They see the scene of the capital city and Heater, who's a priest, says people are having parties at their triumph. Himmel says they have to find the work. Though they defeated the Demon King, it's not over yet. Heater says he will find the place where he can drink. The other last to hear this and says he's not a priest. Then Himmel says to Frieren that her life must be much longer than they can imagine because she's an elf. In the next scene, they reach the city and everyone warmly welcomes them. The soldiers of the king take them to the king. The king thanked them for defeating the Demon King and said now everything would be fine in the future. At night, it looked like a festival was going on in the city. All 4 heroes were standing together. Himmel tells them the king will create their statue in the middle of the city, but he's worried about his statue. Frieren thinks that he's very self-serving and also appreciates himself, and Heater says they can drink there without any cost. Frieren calls him a corrupt priest. Then they remember their 10-year journey, like when the king was going to execute Himmel and Eisen at the start of their journey for their rude behavior. Heater behaved strangely, aging someone in the treasure box and trying to eat Frieren. All these memories were terrible, but they are happy about their journey with each other. They see the Era meteor shower, which appears only once every 50 years. Himmel says it's a good idea to start a new journey, and Frieren says she knows about the place from which this scene is more attractive. She says she will take them to the place after 50 years, which Himmel laughs to hear. In the next scene, they all go together to say goodbye to Frieren. Himmel asks what she will do next and tells her she will collect spells assigned to work for 50 to 100 years, and then she goes away from there. Heater says 50 years are very little for her. She starts her journey and collects so many herbs from different places. 20 years have passed, and she goes to a shop and says she wants dragon horns for their work. The shop owner says he hasn't heard about dragon horns in many years. She remembers Himmel must have dragon horns. When they kill the Demon King, they get the dragon horns. After 50 years, when she reached the city, she thought the city had changed so much, and then she met Himmel. He gets so old, but says he's still very handsome like before, but she's still the same as ever. Then she also meets Eisen and Heater, and Himmel gives her dragon horns and says he keeps them safe in his cabinet. They all start their journey toward the place to see the Era meteor shower, and they also fight with demons on the way. Finally, they reach the place and see the beautiful scene. Himmel says he waited a lot for this moment in 50 years. The next day, there's complete silence in the city because Himmel has died. Frieren is very upset and he fires him. She says she never knew anything about him, even after spending a long time with him. Heater says when she comes back to this, please offer a drink on his grave. She asks us if he's afraid of dance. He says they spend their whole lives with people, so they must go to heaven. When he goes away, Eisen asks her if she will again go collecting spells. After 20 years, she returns to meet Heater, but she forgets him in the forest. A girl asks if she's searching for something, and she says she wants to meet Heater. She takes her to Heater and says she thinks he will be dead, then asks him about the girl. Heater tells her she's an orphan, and Frieren says how he became a healer who didn't help anyone in the past. Heater requested he make Frieren her student. She has a desire to become a mage, but Frieren denied it and says she is very shy. He makes another request to her. He wants her to decide on the immortality book. She says she can, but it takes 4 to 5 years. She also asks why he wants this. He says he's afraid to die, so he wants to live for some years. Then she says she will teach magic to Frieren in her free time, and she agrees. In the next scene, she reaches for Frieren in the forest, asks for ID, and finds difficulty searching for her. Frieren uses her magic, but the magic ends very soon, and Frieren asks her what to do. Frieren asks her if she'd like magic. Frieren says a little bit. Frieren smiles. While fishing, Frieren teaches her magic and tells her she can never learn all the magic overnight. They reach home, and they have an easy dinner with Heater. Time has passed, so Frieren writes the book and teaches the magic to Frieren. Frieren also learns a few magic tricks. At night, Frieren is writing the book, and Heater asks about Frieren's training. She tells people they could not learn in term years that she had learned only in 4 years. Heater feels happy and says she likes magic very much. Then Frieren hears something. Heater falls, she puts him in bed, and the weather is very cold. Frieren says she will write this book for him, and then she reaches out to Frieren, who's still training in that weather. Frieren says she has to hold on to her training because Heater is faint, but she says she has to work. She says Heater saved her life and she will pay him. She wants to fall the mountain with her magic. She remembers the past when she was trying to commit suicide. Heater comes there and says that if she dies, then her beautiful memories will be wasted. Heater says he wasn't going to die because he has a lot of beautiful memories with his friends. He lost his best friends, and now if he dies, his memories will vanish. In the present, she tells Heater she feels afraid of death. If he dies, then she cannot come out of the curse of not saving him. And Frieren asks if she remembers all the things that she teaches her. She says she remembers everything that she teaches and will work hard. Frieren completes the book after a few years and gives it to Heater. He says to make Fern her student because she's no weaker. Now she has magic. Frieren says to make her a fool. Heater says to go away tonight with Fern. Heater says he's nearing death, and he doesn't want that Fern to feel the pain of losing her beloved one again. So he wants this. Fern also hears all this. Frieren weeps and says Fern has to spend some time with him. Then Fern talks with Heater, and Frieren goes out in town. After a few days, Heater dies, and Frieren offers a drink on his grave. They both go out on their next journey. They'd also get a reward from a farmer, but Fern says they were doing only minor activities. These are not so special. They both reach out to an old woman who seems magical. She takes them to a garden where they see the statue of Himmel. The woman tells us that when she was little, a monster attacked their village, but Himmel saved them. Frieren says he shows off very much when village people talk about creating his statue. Frieren asks if they clean that place, and the old woman says yes. They both clean the place and the statue of the Himmel, and then the old woman says she will grow flowers in the whole place. Fern asks Frieren if she knows about any magic to grow flowers, and she says yes. But later, she remembers Himmel and says she will grow blue moon weeds that were grown in Himmel's village. Fern says, but how she can grow these flowers she doesn't know how to make. The old woman gives them information about blue weed from the boom and says they were found it in old times. Now they don't find it. Frieren sees some squirrels there who are eating something. She takes the squirrels with them and says, now they have to go. She started searching for the flowers but could not find them. They also went to the old woman. 6 months have passed and Frieren goes to different places, but she's failed. Then Fern reaches out to the old woman and talks with her about the flowers. Fern says she's a mage and could save the lives of many people, but she is wasting her time. The old woman says she's very young, but she thought deeper than them. She gives her something and asks her to give it to Frieren, who will understand. She tells the whole story to Frieren, who apologizes to her and says she will soon find the flowers. Then they see that a squirrel is taking away the things that the old woman gives them, and they both run behind the squirrel. They use the magic to see the footmarks of the squirrels, and finally, the footmarks ended up on top. When they reach the top, they see the place is filled with blue moon weeping flowers, and they look very beautiful. Fern says she can't believe they found the flowers. They took away the flowers and decorated the whole place with the statue. At last, she makes the crown of blue weed flowers and puts them on the statue of Himmel, and the statue starts looking more cute than before. Fren and Frieren were walking in the street, and Frieren said she had to buy some things. Fern understands that she's hiding something from her by looking at her actions. She says they already have all the necessary things, but Frieren buys some meaningless things. Green leaves her alone for a few minutes so she can chase her. Frieren goes to different shops and wanders in the streets. She also goes to the accessory shop, and French thinks that he may be interested in fashion. Then she asks about the sweatshop and goes toward a club. Fern says she's going to the wrong place. She asks a few people about the sweatshop. One of them says there are many sweaty ships in this city everywhere. He can take her there. At the end of the day, Fern sees that she doesn't buy anything, and Frieren apologizes to her for coming so late. Fern can understand her and says they have to go to eat something sweet, and they both reach a place. The location is very beautiful, and they both sit there. Fern can't hide anything because she feels that it's bad. So she tells Frieren that she has chased her the whole day, and then Fern says they will order pudding to eat. Frieren remembers that in the past, she was sitting with her friends, and Himmel said they would order pudding. He also knows that she likes pudding, but she says she doesn't know about their favorite foods and things. They all tell each other their favorite foods, Frieren says, but she knows that Heater likes to drink. And then she gave a hair ornament to her that's very beautiful. Fern becomes so delighted and comes to know that it's her birthday. The next day, they both go out for their next mission, and Fern puts the hair ornament on her hair. Fern is growing old now. She's 16 years old. Frieren says she can be her older sister. In the next scene, they are practicing in a place, and Frieren teaches her many things. Now she is very able. Frieren says that is enough for the day, and then they start walking to their next adventure. They reached a village where they met with an old man. The old man's mother recognizes Frieren and says he knows why she came there. He says to come behind him. On the way, they talk about the big monster that they sealed 80 years ago. Frieren asks how he came to know about her. He tells Himmel that he arrived there many years before he asked him about her. She's amazed that he came there to check the seal of the monster. They reach the seal of the monster, and he's frozen. Fern is afraid, and Frieren touches the monster and says he's not so strong yet. Frieren says they will complete it tomorrow. At night, Fern asks about the monster and why they seal him. Frieren tells the monster that he has too much strength and asks if he has different kinds of magic. They were unable to defeat the monster because his magic was very extraordinary. She says that his magic is reversed on himself. Frieren asks her if she doesn't read the story from the book. She says no, but says she will read the book. The next day, they go toward the monster, and Frieren breaks his seal. He asks about the time. Frieren says 80 years have passed, and the Demon King has also died. The monster says then he will take revenge on them. He uses his same magic technique, but Frieren says now nobody is afraid of his magic. She says that when he was sealed, all the people studied his magic, or he was broken. She makes the seal and dodges the attacks of the monster. The monster feels his seal is going to break. He laughs and attacks them, which is very strong. Frieren stops his attack because she has worked very hard over the years to fight with him. Thus, they both won, and all the villagers were very happy. The old man gives her a straw hat and says it will save her from the sun. She feels that she has seen this straw hat before and remembers that there was a little child in her past who teased her. Himmel gets angry at that child, and in the present, she says to the old man, he recognizes him. She can't believe he's still alive. The old man thanked her, said he was happy that he believed Himmel, and waited for her. Then they both go away, and Frieren says all the villages believed in Himmel, and Fern says she doesn't know much about it, but she can say that Himmel believes in her. Then Frieren put her hand on Fern's head, and she asked, "What's this?" Frieren said nothing. 20 years have passed since the death of the hero Himmel. Fern and Frieren reach the beach with an old man. There are a lot of broken boats there, and the old man says they're also collected there every year. They have to clean it, but now that the old man doesn't have boys to clean this grab, he shows a book to Frieren. He tells Frieren to clean this place, and then he will give this book to her. Then the old man goes away, and Fern understands that the book is fake. She asks why she accepts his offer. Frieren says she does all this for herself, and they start working there. The work is too much. Fern goes to work in a shop, and it comes to light that they have spent 3 months there. The old lady tells her to be careful because it's very cold, and she goes back to her room. She sees that Frieren is sleeping, and the whole room is very dirty. She awakens Frieren, but she doesn't wake up. She dressed her up and helped her go to work when they reached their workplace. Frieren was still sleeping. They collect all the garbage and burn it. They reach the house of the old man and have an easy dinner. The old man says how to clean that place before the New Year festival, but Frieren doesn't say a word. The next day, they reach their destination, and Dudley is cleaning the beach. They are also afraid to see a skeleton, and they talk about the sunrise. They say it's a very beautiful scene, and they ask the villagers to see it. They collect all the garbage and burn it. The old man is also with them, and their work is finished. He asks Frieren to join them on the New Year festival, and they will all see the sunrise together. But Frieren is shocked. She says she does not know how she will manage to wake up so early in the morning. She sleeps till noon. Frieren remembers when her friends insisted on going with them to see the sunrise, but she says they can go without her. In the present, she says to Fern that she will wake up, but she doesn't have to sleep until morning. She is sitting on her bed, but she sleeps after a few minutes. In the morning, Fern wakes him up. They run fast, and Fern says she will be late for the festival. They go to the beach and see the sunrise. She looks at Fern, who's very happy, and feels how important it is to see the sunrise for others' happiness. Then she remembers her last time when she was standing with other friends. They were standing before anything, asking Heater to pray there. They talk about heaven. The people who will do their good deeds will go to heaven after their deaths. Frieren says she doesn't have any idea about heaven, and they all offer prayer there. The leader, Eisen, is still standing there, and Fern and Frieren reach for him. He takes them home, and they talk with each other. He says he can't imagine that she can become a teacher. The next day, they go on an adventure to see the legendary book. Hyder works a lot on that book. Only Eisen knows about the legendary book. Fern also talks with Eisen. Frieren says they have to find the large tree, and on the way, they also talk about Himmel. Eisen says that when Himmel dies, she is worried because she doesn't know anything about him. She has to convey this to him in his life. Finally, they reach the large tree, and she knows that the real book is there and the other books are fake. She remembers the lady where she was talking with her master who takes care of a tree, but Frieren says she will not be alive till 1,000 years for the tree. His mate says she will be alive. Then, after several hours inside, they see a book and they read it. The master knows that she will come back after 1,000 years. They read about the place, and Eisen says they have to go there. The place is in the castle of the Demon King. Fern can't believe all this. Eisen says to Frieren she has to talk with Himmel. Frieren says she doesn't want to go there, and they sit on a boat. Frieren sleeps there, and Eisen is really with Fern, who says she wants to know about Himmel, but is not interested in her. She only takes her because she promises Heater to keep her as her student. Then Eisen reached his home, and they both went away to start their journey. Fern is talking with Eisen about going on their next journey. She says they will go on the adventure by way of Himmel's party. Frieren looks at them and says they are right, and it will be a journey of 10 years. Eisen says to Frieren that she's changing slowly. Frieren remembers all the moments that taught her the best things. Then they both went away on their adventure. Fern says her half-life has passed with him, and Fern says it's going to increase more than before with her. Fern remembers when Heater told her to accept all the orders of Frieren or else he would make her afraid after his death. Fern says that if she becomes a bad girl, they will come to meet her. Heater smiles and says that now she has become so clever. Heater says if she becomes a good girl, he will come to meet her. The scene shifts to the present, where they teach the village. A girl asks them if she's right. They are going toward that mountain. She tells them about rumors, monsters, etc. She tells them that many people were lost there, and Fern discuss things with all the people at different places. They talk about some of the rumors, and Frieren concludes that it's not the work of rumors. The dead people can be controlled with magic, like zombies and skeletons. She says it's the hands of some type of monster behind all this. Frieren says they have to stay away from all this and will go back to the village tomorrow morning. But Fern says village people need them and they can't run. Fern asks why she's talking like Himmel. They both get ready to go there. Frieren tells them the ghosts will come in the personalities of their family members and headwaters of them. Fern says she will shoot them when they are gone. Heater appears before Fern, and at first, she thinks that he's a monster. Fern is going to kill him, but she thinks that Heater says he will come to meet her after his death. Then Himmel appeared before Fernan, but she didn't come to the trap and attack. Fernan also understood that it was fake, and she also attacked. Finally, they reach the Oriole, and they see a dragon there. The book is also there. Fern shackles the dragon, who is sleeping, but nothing happens to her. Instead, the dragon wakes up. Frieren runs to see the dragon, and Fern wonders why she runs. When Fern sees the big dragon before her, she becomes so afraid. She makes to run and reach for Frieren, and they both say they cannot fight with a dragon. Frieren remembers Eisen, who says she will never be a new member to defeat the monster, and asks if his name will be Stark. He was the student of Eisen, who's very strong and brave. They both went out to search for the boy. Fern wonders how a dragon may live there. An old lady meets them. She takes them to Stark. On the way, she tells them that many years before the season attacked the village, a bit of Stark came there and saved everyone. Stark isn't afraid of the dragon, and sure of his presence, the dragon will not come to attack the village again. They both reach Stark, who is talking with two children. He asks about them and asks if his master sent them. He also says they are the ones who come to fight with the dragon. Frieren talks with him, and he tells his grandma to leave them alone for a while. Frieren tells him to join them to defeat the monster, and Stark tells him not to do this. The dragon will destroy this village because he's very terrible. Frieren says she wants to take the boon that is there, so she wants to freshen up the dragon. It's her hobby. Stark asks if she can defeat the dragon, and Frieren says she can defeat him if he makes the dragon busy for 30 seconds. Stark laughs and says okay. Then he stays weeping and says, but he doesn't know how to fight. He says that when he first fired before the dragon, he could not die because of the fear, but the dragon went back. Everyone starts thinking of him as their hero, but he is very cowardly. Fern gets upset and says he's a coward. They have to choose another good one who can help them. Frieren says he has time until morning to join them. They both reached a restaurant for dinner when they were going back. Fern thought the dragon hadn't attacked the village. Suddenly, they hear a live voice, and Fern says it's the voice of Stark. She goes to see him and asks Frieren to reach back home. Fern is amazed to see Stark skiing in his training. She asks if he doesn't have any plans to fight against the monster and why he's doing this. She comes to him and says she doesn't know why, but she believes that he will never run from the monster. Stark says that when he first arrives in the village, he sees fear in the eyes of every villager, and they call him a hero. He also shows the scar on his forehead. He says it's not the mark of a fight against the monster. His master Aurahim so hardly asks that bleeding start coming out of his forehead. At that time, he thinks that his master is disappointed in him. His master never praised him for his good work. Fern says that when she first fights with a monster, she becomes very afraid and starts running, but the monster never stops chasing her. She stops suddenly, attacks the monster, and defeats him. Frieren is also out there to help her. Fern reaches back home, and Frieren asks what happened. She says she doesn't know, but he's going right. The next day, they both reach the place where Stark lived, but he is not there. They become upset, and Frieren says, let's play with the dragon, but Fern doesn't move. After a few times, Stark reaches there, and they both feel happy to see him. Stark says he had to make the dragon bus die in 30 seconds, and she says yes. Before the dragon asks if Stark is afraid of the dragon, Frieren thinks he's the same as Eisen. Eisen also feels afraid when he is standing before a monster and his other friends laugh. Stark starts his fight with the dragon, and he's very powerful. That's why the dragon didn't attack the village, because he knew that Stark was too strong and would kill him. Frieren remembers when Eisen tells her that he doesn't hit him, Stark, his body automatically moves and he hurts him. In the present, Stark is still fighting with a dragon who's in very bad condition, and then he tells Fern to shoot. Frieren stopped her from doing so, but Stark cried and said what she was doing. Frieren says that there's no need to shoot because the dragon is already dead. All the villagers said goodbye to them, and they went away to their next destination. In the way, Stark tells them he only joins them because it's his master's wish. Frieren asks if she wants to go back to his master. Then they reach Rio de Janeiro, where a guard stops them, throws them, and never allows anyone to enter the city. Later, he allows them to enter but warns them not to create any disturbance. Frieren goes away, and Stark asks Frieren if they can go to eat something, but she gazes at him. Stark goes away himself and says her ashes are very terrible. The scene shifts to Stark, who is eating ice cream. He remembers that when he was little, he came with Eisen to eat the ice cream. Frieren also comes there and asks to order a glass of milk. They are tall with each other, and when she tells him about the close of the door, she says they have to stay there for 2 years. They reach a place and say it's very beautiful. Stark says that in his childhood, he came there with his master and liked this place very much. Then he says his master will allow him to guide them, and he will experience a lot in this adventure. They reach back to the city where Frieren is hiding. They ask what she's doing, and she tells them she has been chased by someone who's not anyone else but a guard. The guards also come there, and they become afraid to see them. But the guards apologize to them for their rude behavior and tell them they are heroes. The mayor of the village also comes there. They say they will allow them to go out of the city and will give them a checkpoint. They warmly say goodbye to them with a celebration. Frieren doesn't like all this, and when the gate opens, they all go away. They are happy about this, and Frieren remembers when she came there with her other friends and they all went away. A scene from many years ago shows Frieren has a book in her hand. She says she thinks the books she reads are not genuine. Heiner says she's like, all the books are fake, though she knows that the task book is under a tree and that the other books are fake. The scene shifts to the present, where, when Frieren wakes up, Frieren is making something with Stark. She says it loudly. Miss Frieren wakes up, but she says it's not a big deal. Stark doesn't know that she respects her a lot and used to care about her. Then they were walking, and they helped a guy. The way was filled with the rocks of a mountain. Stark sees that Frieren throws big rocks to the other side with her magic. Stark asks if she doesn't have the magic to transfer the odd carriage to the other side. She says if they do, then it can create difficulties for the next people who will come for adventure. Then Stark asks the man if the way is always like this. Then Frieren asks Mr. Stark for help, but Stark says not to call him Mr. because he's not so much older than her. Then she calls him rudely, asking him not to waste his tone and come to help her. Stark says not to behave with him like this. He's very sensitive. Please be friendly. Then they clean the place, and the man takes them to the city. The man tells them about the festival of Himmel. Frieren is amazed to see that she came there before with her friends, and they killed the demon king there, and their statue was placed there. In the past, when she asked why he made her statue after doing every adventure, he said so people could remember what they did. He says it's also for her, so she won't feel alone in the future because they are humans and they will die. Then the scene shifts to the present. Stark asks Frieren where they are heading. She remembers Himmel and says toward heaven. They reach a city and in the town. She takes out her bag and takes out her sword. Frieren asks what she's doing. They're in town, so don't behave like this. She says she feels the smell of demons there, and they see a guy named Lugner walking there with 2 fellows. Frieren is going to be attacked by the king, who says to catch him. The king says he is chasing Lugner, but he's not selfish enough to let her kill him. Then Lugner comes to Frieren and says all the people in the town hate him, but they don't dare to kill him. Only she dares to do this if he looks like a demon. She says he's not. Then King orders him to catch her, and Stark asks Frieren if she is looking at all this. They go to the place where she's closed, and she is feeling bored. Frieren says they will take action on her and close her for 2 to 3 years. If Frieren says it's nothing for her, then they're talking about the monster. She says if they know about Asia, the guillotine was one of the 7 sages of destruction who served the demon king. She tells them about their fight, and Lugner comes into the city and says they don't want to fight anymore, but he's the enemy. Frieren says monsters are man-eating, and they are not worthy of belief. Stark says yes, but they can resolve it by talking, but she says there's no benefit to it. She says if they know why demons talk like humans, she will tell them her past story. Himmel and Frieren were before a monster girl. She's so little, but she killed the girl. Himmel is going to kill her, but she says it hurts. Himmel becomes stunned to hear this, and the chief of the village comes near her and says he will take care of her. He took her home, and she was okay with all of them. But one day she burns the house of the chief and also kills her. All are shocked to see him, and they kill the monster girl. In the present, Frieren tells them they always deceive humans, and they go away. Then Lugner is shown, who is thinking about Frieren and says he saw her before this. Then he stands and reaches the mansion of the king. The stone of the king has died, and he calls them there. He wants to attack them, and the fellow Lugners are also ready. Lugner knows what he has to do, and he traps the king. Ludner wants to end all this because he knows all the guillotine will come back and finish all this. Then, the Draught reaches for Frieren, and he kills the guard. Then he reaches inside and tells Frieren that he's Draught. She says it's the right way to negotiate, and then he says he will come to kill her. She says as he knows she's very strong. Draught says more than him. She says even she's stronger than Aura the guillotine. But Draught takes it easy. He hangs her on the wall and thinks that it's the end. But Frieren cuts his hand, and they start to fight. Frieren beats him and closes his chapter. She comes out of the jail and sees the guard killed. She says that she tells the king about these 3 devils, then he will forgive her. On the other hand, Fern and Stark are eating a big burger. Suddenly, she calls him Stark and Stark says he doesn't give his burger to her. She is trying to tell him that they have to help Frieren by talking with the king. Fern says that Ludner is very pleb, and he continually watches Frieren because he knows she's a danger to him. Stark is very afraid, and his hands are shaking. He spills juice on his pants. Fern tells him to meet, but he is afraid. He says he heads to go, otherwise he could not face his master. Then they both stand up to go toward the king. Ludner is sitting with his fellow girl, Linny, and he knows Draught is dead. He says they're not going to be killed because they're the right hand of Lady Aura. Then the king reaches and tells the mage that she has escaped, but he knows that she didn't kill the guard because she knows the value of a guard's life. Ludner says he will help him, but King knows it's his hand behind all this. After this, he attacks the king but doesn't kill him because the king has information that he wants. On the other hand, Fern and Stark are walking and she feels someone passing by them, and she's no one else but Frieren. Frieren tells them the situation and says she's going out of the city because the situation is going to be much worse. Fern says, but what about the people? Frieren says to handle this situation. Fern and Stark say they are weak before them, but Frieren says they are no stronger than them, and she goes away. She does this because she knows Stark is very brave, and Fern is also her student, and she believes in them. They go away, and Frieren feels that someone is chasing them from a distance of 10 kilometers. She comes to know that it's Lady Aura who is watching them. Fern and Stark reach the mansion, and Stark climbs on the wall so he can reach the king. He raises his hand to Fern, but she knows that she can fly, so she flies away. On the other hand, King is captured by Ludner, who says that he likes magic. He says they can do anything with magic. He remembers when he killed a lot of devils with his magic. The scene shifts to Frieren, who makes a big deal, and any monster could not break this seal. She remembers when her master made this seal to save a little plant in a snowstorm. This thing is also transferred to the king and the next generation, and he only knows how to open it. Ludner tells the king to track him with this magic, and he goes away. Meanwhile, Stark reaches there, and he becomes shocked to see the condition of the king. He tried to open the roll of the king, but his hands were trembling. The king tells his son's hands to also tremble, indicating that he has died. He says to go and save the townspeople. Stark says that the guard doesn't believe in him. King says to take his locket. When he shows this, they will believe what he says. But Stark tells the king to forgive him, but he's going to break his precious chair. Then Ludner reached there. He didn't pay attention to Stark and just told him to keep away, little child. But Stark stands before the king, and Ludner says not to come in his way. Might says he will be killed, and Stark says he can try it and attack Luger. They fight with each other. Ludner uses his magic, and Stark dodges her magic. Ludner thinks that the boy is a fool who came there alone, but it's a surprise. Stark asks this so he can give her a chance to attack him. She attacks Luger from the top. Linny tries to fight, but they don't let her do this. They help the king escape and take him away. After this, Ludner sits down and says about Fern that the girl's moves remind him of Frieren. And he remembers that Frieren is the one who defeated him before and killed all the other monsters. He couldn't recruit her and was thinking about her, but now he knows about her. Ludner learns about Frieren, the slayer who beat him before. On the other hand, King's treatment is going on, and he says to them that he knows that Frieren is right. He says he will forgive all of them. Fern says that if he knows that Frieren didn't kill his guard, he knows that Ludner is behind all this. The king is upset because he mistreated her and threw her in jail. He tells them that in the era of his grandfather's rule, Aura may attack them, and Frieren saves them at that time. Now Frieren is again standing between Lady Aura, and she says 80 years have passed. Frieren says if she's going toward the city, then she will warn her not to go there. But Aura says she will go because it's an overwhelming advantage for her. Frieren sees that she has a lot of army, and it takes a lot of power. She says yes, she has a lot of power and a great deal of mana. Then, a guard attacks her, but nothing happens to her, and a fight starts there. Frieren sees a locket in the necks of soldiers. She knew them before, but now they are dead. Then Aura shows something to Frieren and says that due to this, the king could not defeat him. Then King tells Fern and Stark about that thing. He says that with the help of this thing, she can control the others. The thing is to take the mana. The person who has less mana is defeated by others and has to follow the order. But it's risky for Aura If her mana gets less, she will be killed, but she doesn't let anyone defeat her. Then the king remembers the past. He tells his locket that the seal is still maintained and keeps the place safe and secure. Frieren fights with each of the soldiers and kills them. Aura is stunned to see this. Now she has to use her power. She asks, last time she used all of her energy to kill them, and Frieren says Himmel rebuked her for this. Aura says Himmel is no more. Frieren stands up and says she's a monster, and she can kill him mercilessly. Stark stands up and moves his hand, then his father comes there and asks if they are safe there. The father says yes, and then Fern asks about the next plan and what they have to do. Stark says someone had to do this, and he's going there. Fern asks if he's serious about the matter. Then Stark says to beg before him to take back Frieren to them. Fern says what he says. They both go away, and Stark gives the necklace to Fern and says guards will obey her due to this necklace. Then she sees that he has a lot of injuries on his arm, and Stark also sees the blood on his coat, but it is not hers. Stark also has blood on him. It's the blood of Lunner who arrives, and he attacks Fern. Stark tries to help him, but Linny comes between them, and she fights with him. Stark says that all beer moves are like his master Eisen. On the other hand, Lugner catches Fern. He asks her a question, but she's quiet. Lugner is angry at her. Then she sees him Stark while fighting with the girl, and she tells him he's the best student of Eisen. Lugner asks her about Frieren, but she says she leaves the town because he killed the guard of the king. When Lover comes to know about Frieren, he's going, but Fern tells him not to move. He asks if she has the strength to do this. She remembers when she says to Frieren that she's not as powerful as her. Frieren says she puts her first before everything because she's so much more powerful than her. The scene shifts to the present, where Stark falls, and it seems he's defeated, but he stands up with his injuries, and Fern is also fighting very seriously to kill Lugner. Her aim is just to kill him. The fight going on is very amazing. The girl Linny knows her moves are like Eisen's because, in childhood, she used to look like Eisen while fighting. Stark falls and thinks that he lost, but remembers when he fell in childhood. His master appreciates him standing up. He says he could not defeat him. Eisen says yes because he had less power than him, but he still stands. So that means he's not defeated. Whenever he falls, he just has to stand up again, and the one who stands till the end will be the winner. There is no doubt about it that Stark is not blind to being a loser. He is the winner. He stands up and fights with Linny. She says his strength is like his matter, but he's not as plush as his master. She attacks his back, and Stark says he thinks that either of them will die in this fight. He says that she doesn't have any power in her attack. They will use the attack that he's been practicing for so many days. Finally, he wins, and Fern also defeats Lugner with the magic. The scene from many years ago shows Frieren walking in a forest with her master. She asks her the question, but Frieren says she doesn't remember. She makes her understand. She tells her not to believe in the money or the devils, whatever, because they don't play fair. The master also says that if she gets a chance to kill all of them, she will gladly kill them. The scene shifts to Lugner, who's in very bad condition. He knows that he's going to die. Fern says it's his end, he will die. Lugner says that Frieren will fail to win because last time she had the party of heroes with her, but now she could not manage to win because she had Mrs. Mana asking if Fern said not, she will engage Aura and win. Lugner says in his mind, it is nonsense to hear this. Then he feels something is wrong, and Fern also feels the mana power of Frieren. She comes to know that Frieren doesn't use her mind. She only uses her energy because if she uses her mind, she will be killed. The monsters also read minds, so she wins, and Fern also kills Lugner. Then the scene from many years ago is seen, and the master is standing. A big monster is before her, and she says to Frieren that if she kills him, she can see her power and how strong she is. Frieren does not reply to her. The master fits her and asks. Frieren says she knows how she feels after this. The master takes her, and they go away. On the way, her master tells her that if she doesn't come there, then she will be killed. She also says the monster she killed was more powerful than her. Frieren says everyone in the village is left. The master says there is nothing in the village left. Frieren says she's so powerful, but she cannot protect the village people. Then they see that 3 monsters are before them. They tell her master to leave the elf girl there and go away. She says she knows it's very painful to become a powerful mage. She knows that powerful mages are standing before her, but she says they have become so stupid and overconfident. To say this, she uses a huge blast there. Nothing is left in the place, and Frieren is stunned to see her power. Her master says it was the right way to show their enemies that she was weak and never let them know about her power. She says that monsters think that Frieren is more powerful than her and think she is weak. Then they move on, and in the way, Frieren tells her master they stole everything from her. The master says they also snatched everything from her. Frieren tells them she hates them and wants to kill all of them, and the master takes her to a place. She tells her how to cohere her energy and says they have to show themselves as cowards. The scene shifts to the present, where Frieren is standing before Aura, and Anne sees the thing that will come to know about her mana power. Frieren sees that Aura has a lot of mana, and she's been living for 500 years. The scene again shifts to the past. Frieren asks the other demons to show their magic to others who don't like her. The master says that the monsters want to show their strength to others, and it's a big deal for them. She says it's a pity because they cannot control their energy. She teaches her many things. She says that forceful people don't like to talk with weak people. The years have passed, and the master sees that Frieren has learned much about how to control her energy. In the next scene, Frieren is doing her meditation, and her master comes there, who has become so old. She says that now that she has become so powerful, she can kill the Demon King. She says to grow flowers around her grave when she is dead. In the next scene, it comes to light that the master is dead, and Frieren grows a lot of flowers around her grave. That's why she always grows flowers in arms when the time comes when her other 3 friends come to take her, but she refuses to go with them. Himmel says she's the most powerful mage of the others he sees. In the present, the thing comes to check her mana, and Aura becomes happy to see that her mana is less than. Aura says she is now the winner, and she starts walking toward Frieren. Suddenly, she feels something and sees that their mana gets equal. She is stunned to see that both of them are equal. At this time, Frieren shows her real power. Her power is incredible, and it's more than Lady Aura. So according to the rule, the one who has a great deal of mana can control the other, and the other has to follow her order. Aura becomes so confused that Frieren orders her to kill herself. She remembers her master's last words. She says not to believe in demons because they deceive humans. Aura took a knife to kill herself. Frieren is standing before all the dead warriors, and they all offer prayer before the warriors. The king and Stark were also there. The king was amazed to see that this had happened. Frieren says they did very well, and she feels proud of them. She tells them to let go, but the king says they don't need to go. Stark says that the king forgives her. Then the king hears the voice of a man, and he comes to know that he's his son. On the other side, Frieren remembers Aura, telling her a lot of things about Himmel. The scene shifts to the city, where all the townspeople are okay. The king is in his mansion, and all 3 are standing before him. The king says they did very well. He will reward them for this, and Frieren tells them the king ordered Himmel and Isen to be executed because of their rude behavior. Stark is afraid to hear this. He also behaves rudely before the king when he goes to save him. Then he hears the voice of a man who comes there with an axe. Stark gets so afraid to see this, but the man tells the king about cutting off a tree. The king says he forgives them for things. Frieren says it's a good thing for Stark, but Stark is frozen there. Frieren takes him with her. All these people in this city look at Stark. At night, they all have a party. They eat a big burger. Frieren helps everyone, and they also help Stark heal his wounds. They wander in the street with the king, and Stark becomes friendly with all the children. They also see the beautiful scene at night. They stand before the graves of the soldiers and offer prayer. When their time comes to go, the king tells them the condition on the other side is not looking so good. He suggests taking a first-class mage with them, and Frieren asks about the first-class mage. The king says it's a certification awarded by the Continental Magic Association. Frieren also admits about this place, and she allows her certificate, but Frieren doesn't feel so good about this. Because she thinks it looks like a hassle, she shows an antique to Frieren, and Frieren asks the king about the city. The king tells them about a great magical city in the northern land and tells them the adventure will be very long. They start their next journey. Stark feels it's snowing there, and Frieren tells them that they have to be careful there because winter is so cool. She says if they underestimate this, then they will be dead, and a storm will start happening there. The place is fully covered with snow, and Frieren comes to know that they were lost there. Stark feels so cold, and he faints. Frieren wonders how she can get lost there. Frieren tries to rouse him. At Lady, she holds him on her shoulder, and they start walking. Stark says she smells nice. Frieren says to leave him behind, but Frieren says she has to bear him for a while. Finally, they go to a small home, and they know someone is inside, but Frieren knocks on the door. They see that a guy is exercising inside. He asks Frieren if she's an elf, and thus they all come inside. Then it comes to light that the guy is also a passenger. Due to the snow, he reaches this house and comes inside. He says he's very pleased that he got a chance to meet with them. He tells them he's Kraft the monk. Everyone in the home is safe, but Stark's comfort is still bad. After a while, he sleeps there. He feels so good and brags that there's no more snow and he's safe. At night, he opens his eyes and becomes shocked to see Monk with him. He asks who's this guy, and Fern and Frieren also wake up there. Then Monk tells him to rest there. He will go with Fern and Frieren to get some food supplies. They reach the place where his baggage was, but the place was fully covered with snow. They'd use the magic to transport the food back home and consume it. They live together in the house. 6 months have passed there, and they are still alive in the snow. Monk gives the locket to Frieren and says to give it to Fern because she's a pious girl. Then he asks Frieren to tell him about her, and she narrates her past story to him when she's with her other friend. She talks with Heider about God, and Heider asks her if she has someone who appreciates her. She says she's not worthy of being appreciated by someone. Heider knows that she's suppressing her mana for him, but he knows what's going on in her mind. In the present, Frieren sees that Fern is going to fall from the hut, but Stark saves her. Then she says to the monk that he, Heider, will be in heaven. In the next scene, Monk goes out on his journey and leaves them there. Stark calls him and says that he's his big fan, and Fern also thanks him for the locket that he gave her. They were all walking in the snow, and Fern saw Frieren falling asleep. She tells Stark, who says he will carry her, but Fern says no, and then they see Frieren fail, which means that she slept. Fern carried her, and a high snowstorm arrived there. Frieren says that she smells nice, like Stark says to her. Fern asks if she can walk, but Frieren says no. Then Frieren sees a dream in which she is going with her friends. In their talk, Himmel suddenly raises his sword, and Frieren says, but it's a hell sword. She asks how he got this sword. He tells her that in his childhood, a merchant came to their village and threw the sword at him to kill the monster. In childhood, Heider tells him that it's a fake sword and that he will become the fake hero, as the word implies. Himmel tells Frieren he has decided to become the real hero and will acquire the real hero sword to kill the Demon King. Then the Heider tells him that he was the one who said this to him. He's the real priest. Frieren wakes up from the dream and they reach a village. They see a girl playing there. The girl meets with Frieren and tells them the village's name is the Village of a Sword. Fern and Stark talk to each other. They tell each other there's a sword in the village to whom they protect, meaning heroes tried to steal or catch the sword, but they could, but only a shrubbery hero in the world did. He's not anyone else but Himmel. Stark says he knows about this. It's a pretty famous story about the hero Himmel. Then the scene leads to the home, where they reach inside and Frieren sits before the fire. They talk to each other, and it seems the girl tells them there are a lot of monsters in the village. They decide to go there tomorrow to kill all of them. The next day, they all reach there and kill all the monsters, but Stark sees that there is a group of monsters on the other side. They are standing before a cave. Stark leaps there and kills all of them, but is stunned to see inside the cave. Then a big monster arrived there, who was the king of all the monsters. Frieren and Fern were also looking at this. Frieren comes there and says she believes that he can still move. Then Stark attacks. Fern makes a seal around them, and Frieren uses her final attack, and they beat the monster. Then he asks how he got the real sword, but this is standing in its exact location. Then the girl says to Frieren to tell them the truth. She tells Shem they come there. Himmel is unable to get the sword, but he becomes the hero for the people who want him to become this, but she knows that he is the real hero. Fern becomes disappointed to hear this, so they move on and start their journey toward their next destination. They reach a new city, and Frieren tells Fern that it's his 18th birthday, and she can send him from the town because there are a lot of things in the town. Fern starts thinking about what to do. She asks Frieren what she will give him. She becomes so excited and opens her box. She shows him a liquid in the bottle and tells him it's a cloth-dissolving thing. She tells men to be so happy to receive this kind of gift. Fern wasn't happy to see this, so she threw the liquid on her and went away to talk with Stark. Stark is not in his room, and she goes out to check on him. All the people tell her that he helps them a lot. She searches for him during the day, and in the evening, she finally finds him. She's going to call him, but suddenly Stark says to himself that the cloud looks like a boob. Fern goes back to hear this, and then she thinks, so what if he's a child? Stark says he will tell Fern about this when she comes. Then she reaches out to Stark, who understands that she's angry. They were walking, and Fern told him she wanted to give him a gift. He becomes so amazed and says he will never recur any Goofy before, more from his dead family life than from his master. He belongs to the village of warriors, and his family doesn't care about him. His brother Stoles is very powerful, and he says to his dad that he will train Stark, and he's so nice to him. When monsters attack the village, Stark runs away, but Fern says they will never let him run in. Gunshot, they reach the market, and she buys a bracelet for him. When they reach back, Frieren makes a dish for him, and Stark remembers his brother making this dish for him. He eats this and says it's very good. Frieren asks her if she doesn't read the story from the book. She says no, but says she will read the book. The next day, they go toward the monster, and Frieren breaks his seal. He asks about the time. Frieren says 80 years have passed, and the Demon King has also died. The monster says then he will take revenge on them. He uses his same magic technique, but Frieren says now nobody is afraid of his magic. She says that when he was sealed, all the people studied his magic, or he was broken. She makes the seal and dodges the attacks of the monster. The monster feels his seal is going to break. He laughs and attacks them, which is very strong. Frieren stops his attack because she has worked very hard over the years to fight with him. Thus, they both won, and all the villagers were very happy. The old man gives her a straw hat and says it will save her from the sun. She feels that she has seen this straw hat before and remembers that there was a little child in her past who teased her. Himmel gets angry at that child, and in the present, she says to the old man, he recognizes him. She can't believe he's still alive. The old man thanked her, said he was happy that he believed Himmel, and waited for her. Then they both go away, and Frieren says all the villages believed in Himmel, and Fern says she doesn't know much about it, but she can say that Himmel believes in her. Then Frieren put her hand on Fern's head, and she asked, "What's this?" Frieren said nothing. 20 years have passed since the death of the hero Himmel. Fern and Frieren reach the beach with an old man. There are a lot of broken boats there, and the old man says they're also collected there every year. They have to clean it, but now that the old man doesn't have boys to clean this grab, he shows a book to Frieren. He tells Frieren to clean this place, and then he will give this book to her. Then the old man goes away, and Fern understands that the book is fake. She asks why she accepts his offer. Frieren says she does all this for herself, and they start working there. The work is too much. Fern goes to work in a shop, and it comes to light that they have spent 3 months there. The old lady tells her to be careful because it's very cold, and she goes back to her room. She sees that Frieren is sleeping, and the whole room is very dirty. She awakens Frieren, but she doesn't wake up. She dressed her up and helped her go to work. When they reached their workplace, Frieren was still sleeping. They collect all the garbage and burn it. They reach the house of the old man and have an easy dinner. The old man says how to clean that place before the New Year festival, but Frieren doesn't say a word. The next day, they reach their destination, and Dudley is cleaning the beach. They are also afraid to see a skeleton, and they talk about the sunrise. They say it's a very beautiful scene, and they ask the villagers to see it. They collect all the garbage and burn it. The old man is also with them, and their work is finished. He asks Frieren to join them on the New Year festival, and they will all see the sunrise together. But Frieren is shocked. She says she does not know how she will manage to wake up so early in the morning. She sleeps till noon. Frieren remembers when her friends insisted on going with them to see the sunrise, but she says they can go without her. In the present, she says to Fern that she will wake up, but she doesn't have to sleep until morning. She is sitting on her bed, but she sleeps after a few minutes. In the morning, Fern wakes him up. They run fast, and Fern says she will be late for the festival. They go to the beach and see the sunrise. She looks at Fern, who's very happy, and feels how important it is to see the sunrise for others' happiness. Then she remembers her last time when she was standing with other friends. They were standing before anything, asking Heater to pray there. They talk about heaven. The people who will do their good deeds will go to heaven after their deaths. Frieren says she doesn't have any idea about heaven, and they all offer prayer there. The leader, Eisen, is still standing there, and Fern and Frieren reach for him. He takes them home, and they talk with each other. He says he can't imagine that she can become a teacher. The next day, they go on an adventure to see the legendary book. Heater works a lot on that book. Only Eisen knows about the legendary book. Fern also talks with Eisen. Frieren says they have to find the large tree, and on the way, they also talk about Himmel. Eisen says that when Himmel dies, she is worried because she doesn't know anything about him. She has to convey this to him in his life. Finally, they reach the large tree, and she knows that the real book is there and the other books are fake. She remembers the lady where she was talking with her master who takes care of a tree, but Frieren says she will not be alive till 1,000 years for the tree. His mate says she will be alive. Then, after several hours inside, they see a book and they read it. The master knows that she will come back after 1,000 years. They read about the place, and Eisen says they have to go there. The place is in the castle of the Demon King. Fern can't believe all this. Eisen says to Frieren she has to talk with Himmel. Frieren says she doesn't want to go there, and they sit on a boat. Frieren sleeps there, and Eisen is really with Fern, who says she wants to know about Himmel but is not interested in her. She only takes her because she promises Heater to keep her as her student. Then Eisen reached his home, and they both went away to start their journey. Fern is talking with Eisen about going on their next journey. She says they will go on the adventure by way of Himmel's party. Frieren looks at them and says they are right, and it will be a journey of 10 years. Eisen says to Frieren that she's changing slowly. Frieren remembers all the moments that taught her the best things. Then they both went away on their adventure. Fern says her half-life has passed with him, and Fern says it's going to increase more than before with her. Fern remembers when Heater told her to accept all the orders of Frieren, or else he would make her afraid after his death. Fern says that if she becomes a bad girl, they will come to meet her. Heater smiles and says that now she has become so clever. Heater says if she becomes a good girl, he will come to meet her. The scene shifts to the present, where they teach the village. A girl asks them if she's right. They are going toward that mountain. They reach a place and say it's very beautiful. Stark says that in his childhood, he came there with his master and liked this place very much. Then he says his master will allow him to guide them, and he will experience a lot in this adventure. They reach back to the city where Frieren is hiding. They ask what she's doing, and she tells them she has been chased by someone who's not anyone else but a guard. The guards also come there, and they become afraid to see them. But the guards apologize to them for their rude behavior and tell them they are heroes. The mayor of the village also comes there. They say they will allow them to go out of the city and will give them a checkpoint. They warmly say goodbye to them with a celebration. Frieren doesn't like all this, and when the gate opens, they all go away. They are happy about this, and Frieren remembers when she came there with her other friends and they all went away. A scene from many years ago shows Frieren has a book in her hand. She says she thinks the books she reads are not genuine. Hyder says she's like, all the books are fake. Then she tells him that Fern was raised by Hyder, and she rubs his head like Hyder rubs, and Sign asks what she's doing. On the other hand, Stark and Fern buy a very beautiful bracelet. They look so cute with each other. In the next adventure, they are traveling, and Fern asks about her bracelet. She becomes so shy, but Stark is sleeping at that time. Frieren says she had the same ring with this design. Himmel gave it to her. She opens her box, and after a while, won't she find that thing and show it to Fern? Then a blast happened there. An avian monster attacked their carriage and flew away. They think about what to do because they are in the air and they can't use magic. They make a plan, and Frieren says she will go outside and attack the monster. Fern must control all of them with the power of her flying. She says to Stark that he has to jump. She says his master can jump from any height. Then Frieren goes outside and kills the monster, but she doesn't use magic, and they all fall, but they're safe. Their work is only to repair the carriage and to get back where they want. They start working hard to make it better. Then Sane says that the bracelet is looking very good, and Fern says it's a birthday present from Stark. Scene holds his hand on Stark's shoulder and takes him away. They are talking with each other, but Fern can hear all their talk. Scene says his choice is the best. He says that in this town, people give this mirror design gift to their loved ones. Stark is amazed to hear this, and then Fern calls him. Fern says it's very lovely to her because he gave it to her. She says this because she likes him. Frieren also feels that her ring is lost, and she finds out at night but cannot. They spend a lot of time there. One night, Fern also came there, and Frieren told her that the thing was lost. She asked if the thing had a mirror design, and Frieren said yes. She says the flower's design means eternal love. Frieren says she didn't know about this at that time. Fern says she codes this ring, and it must be very important for her. Then Frieren searches for the ring with full attention, finds out about it, and remembers how Himmel gave this ring to her. She feels how important this thing is for her, and their journey again starts. They were all going on a carriage to their next destination. Fern is sleeping, and she codes with Frieren. Frieren is reading a book, and her book falls because of Fern. Scene is looking at all this, and he asks how much time they spend on their adventures. Frieren says it's been 4 years of their journey. Stark says he spent a year, and Cyan becomes happy to see this. They are walking, and Cyan says their party lacks something. Frieren says they have a mage, a priest, etc. Scene says they lack an important thing, which is an old lady. Stark says they have Frieren. Cyan says, but Frieren is not an old lady. When they reach the village, they are stunned to see that all the people in the village are sleeping. Frieren tells them about the curse on the village. She says a demon or the monster cast a spell on the village to make everyone asleep. She says the priest can revive them. Mostly, the spell doesn't have any way to remove it, but they can try. Then Sane tries to use his magic to awaken them, but he cannot. Frieren says she also doesn't have any idea how to recover it. She says she feels that the spell is working on her, and Fern and Stark are shocked to hear this. When they were going, Fern called them because Stark was sleeping. They don't have a choice, so they all carry him, and the way they feel is that Fern is also falling asleep. They sealed both of them and went away. When they reached there, the monster Frieren also slept there, but she said she would kill them or believe her. Scene is left alone before the monster. The monster looks like a flower that smells villagers to make them sleep. Scene uses his magic, but it does not work. He thinks it can. He's also afraid because he's alone. He also has to take care of Frieren, and he wants to make her awake to help him. He remembers Hyder, who says to believe in Frieren. She doesn't know what she has to do in difficult times. He says to just believe in her words. She promises she will defeat the Demon King. Then Frieren wakes up, and she kills the monster. Scene becomes happy to see her there, and the spell ends. Stark and Fern also wake up their arms. They see what's happening around them, and they start walking to their next destination. Scene says to Frieren that she's a very powerful mage. She also appreciates him and holds her hand on his head. They reached Vorig were kind, and when his guards came to their arms, they took Stark away with them. They reach his mansion, and the king says he has a request for Stark, and he will pay him. Frieren says he's the frontliner of her party, and they have to go, but Fern tells her they don't have much money, so they have to stop there with Stark. Stark is walking with the king. He asks many things about Stark, then shows them a picture of his son Word, who's the same as Stark. He says Wirt died 1 month ago. Nobody knows about it. Only a man named Gable knows about it. He tells them about a ceremony where, after 3 months, he wants Stark to become his son among all the guests. He wants to train him in these months so he can behave well among everyone. Then Gable started his training, and he became so tired that, after a long time, he met Fern, who asked about his training, and he went away tired. In the next scene, the king introduces his other little son to Stark, and the king tells him to do his sword practice. But Stark is so confused. The king says he doesn't need to be confused, and he takes a long breath. Then King says to Fern that she also had to perform with Stark on that night with all the guests. Frieren says good luck to her, and she also practices. The night comes, and Stark says to Fern they have to practice so they can perform well, and they both perform a dance. Everyone looks at them. Fern is also amazed to see Stark and thinks he's doing very well. The king is looking at him, and Sign says to Frieren, let's go to perform, but she says she has to eat the cake. After the ceremony, the king talks with Stark and says to give the reward to Frieren and a lot of books. Then he says his time is over. The king also offers him to become his son, but he says he can't take his place. The king says he fights with his son, and he doesn't call him his father, but Stark says he can't leave because someone wants him and believes in him. Then Frieren spends a whole night selecting the books that she wants to read, and Stark sees in the window that the king is practicing with his son. Then Frieren saw them happy with each other, and she also became happy to see this. Sign remembers his childhood memories. He's sitting before a lake and catching fish. His friend comes there and says that a mage wants to take their photo. Sign doesn't stand up, and his friend drags him there. In the present, Sign is watching that picture in his locket, and he always keeps it with him. They were walking together, and Frieren told them about the strong warrior named the Old Man Vol, a long-lived friend. She tells her he's a dwarf and has been protecting the village for 400 years, and the lifespan of odd dwarfs is so long. She tells them they stay there for a week. She wants to meet him before she dies, and finally they reach the village. When Fern is cruising the lake, she sees that Stark is coming to help her. She is stunned to see this. It's clear from the scene that they make a string vine with each other and always remain together. Suddenly, Stark says that he's so old now, and Vol is on his own with his sword. He says humans and demons were killed in the war because of carelessness. What will happen if he cuts his foot with the sword? Frieren tries to come inside, but Stark tells him he can't move because of his foot. Frieren tells him to practice there with Vol until they are there, and they all go away. A boy tells them that nobody sees him happy, and no one knows that he has friends. He protects a village from the attack of monsters, but nobody knows why he does this. He becomes the protecting deity of the village. During their time together, Stark gets so tired of his hard training that he becomes distressed. He could not eat well and couldn't sleep well. At night, they see the shining mushroom. They spend a week in the village, but it's a hard time for Stark. At last, Stark is stunned to see that he defeated a big monster. Frieren asks what's about his training. Humans develop so quickly, so Stark also gets a lot of things from this training. Then the scene from many years ago is seen when Frieren comes into the village with her friends. Himmel asks Vol why he protects this village from monsters. He says it's because his life loves this place, and he's fulfilling his promise to her. She died because she was a human, and he's still alive and fulfilling his promise to the dead. He can't see her eyes, smile, etc. because she died many years ago. Himmel likes him so much that he still remembers his wife after many years of her death. Vol says his wife wished to seek the era after the death of the Demon King. Vol also says to Himmel that he will transfer his memories in the future and will tell everyone about this. Himmel says don't worry because they have Frieren in their party who will do this work because she will live up to thousands of years. In the present, Frieren is talking with Vol, who asks her if she still remembers everything. She says yes. The old man says he can't remember her eyes or her smile, but he's still ready to fight with the Demon King. Frieren asks if he is ready and is going to tell him that the Demon King is already defeated, but she stops. The next day they go out. Sign is talking with a boy about his friends because it's his goal to search for them. The other friends were liking his arms, then he find back. Stark asks them the name of his friend. He tells Guerrilla Warrior. Stark is shocked. He asks for his real name, but Sign says he doesn't know. Then they reach the next place. Sign says the journey was long, so he's going to ask about his friends. He talks with a man, asks the man to see his friends, asks them about the house of an old woman, and tells them he lived there with the old woman. They all go inside the house and ask about the Guerrilla Warrior, but she says nothing. She gives them work to convey the letter to some time, which makes us happy because, in the past, Himmel also did this work. They complete the work, but later she gives them a lot of work to do, and they get entangled there. At least she tells them it's their last work, and then she will tell them she gave them the work to clean a statue of Kraft the monk, whom they already met. Sign sees the statue and says he came there with his friends in childhood. His friend says he will become a hero like Himmel. He gives himself the name Guerrilla Warrior so it'll be memorable among people. Peter says he's right, and he gives the name of the goatee priest to Scene. In the present, they complete their work, oddly cleaning the statue, and Scene says many things about his friends. He also learns about his friend from the old lady, but he's confused because his friend is going in another direction. He could not decide where he had to go, and thus the episode ends here.